Okay, it's 1 minute after 7, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started. We'll let people come in as they can. I want to welcome everybody to this evening's Queen Anne Community Council meeting, and especially those of you who are here who are new among our new board members. So welcome to all of you. We have two great guest speakers this evening. Andrea Juarez is going to kick it off, or Suarez, I'm sorry, We Heart Seattle. And with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Andrea so she can get started. I do want to do a brief introduction, though, for people who may not know her. Hard to believe anybody doesn't. But Andrea is the executive director and founding member of We Heart Seattle. In addition to her full-time job with We Heart, she also has 27 years of experience in logistics operation and still is involved in that business. Her key to success, as she attributes it, is the boots on the ground direct action strategies that include organized trash removal events, citizen-led homeless outreach, and outspoken advocacy for humane policies to address the crisis facing our communities. Her vision is unique, as you probably know as well. And it's to bring private funds together through grassroots tactics to provide friction-free problem solving to our rough sleepers and our communities with a goal to restore hope in all of us. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the meeting over to Andrea and let her tell us about We Heart Seattle and their success. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you everyone for having me. We'll just flip through a couple of key slides because I feel like these things are always more exciting when we have some Q&A at the end. Let's see here. Hold this forward. As Paula mentioned, we are privately funded, nonpartisan, and use direct action strategies like organized litter picks and citizen-led outreach to really uncover what's working and what's not. Didn't really set out to do that. Here we are 3 years later thinking these little innocent litter picks would be all that we do, but 1 million pounds of trash later and in the belly of the beast here in an election cycle as subject matter experts has been kind of a new beginning for me. I haven't quite figured out what my long term is, but it feels like more and more I'm becoming more of a in that like realm of public speaking, subject matter expert, and just civic engagement leader. So but it all started with the trash, and there's no shame in that, and we're really proud of that. I love this slide. Just real quickly, what is it exactly what we do and why is it magical? Starting with trash really level sets the power dynamic between our paid lived experience staff and also our volunteers, with folks still living outside, because we're willing to get down and dirty with the trash, clean up the needles, the trash, the broken furniture, without police, without public funds, and that we're truly doing this out of the goodness of our hearts, in that it's volunteer-led civic engagement at its best. So it really disarms people living outside, and they're eager to help, and that's where the individualized outreach has this magic component and trust building, and to date we've helped over 200 people off the streets, not just pointing them to a warming shelter or a warm meal. We don't even count those statistics, and those would be by the thousands if we did. But like true family reunions, detox, permanent supportive housing, tiny houses have been part of our suite of services. And then the civic engagement piece, here we are in a historic general election this time of year, and have created a voting is your superpower slogan with billboards, swag, t-shirts, and a walkabout scheduled October 21st. So we're really leaning into that all hands on deck civic engagement piece that we're really excited about, and kind of get more into what that means later. Just by the numbers, in September was our 3-year anniversary, and also our 1 millionth pound of trash removed. And we actually completed that in Northgate, where there was, gosh, probably more than 20,000 pounds of trash, most likely illegally dumped along the highway. And we're getting after that over the series of 4 picks. So we're really proud of that. Without backhoes or public funding of any kind. I mean, this is true, like Little Red Wagon and barbecue tongs. I know several of you on the call have been out there with us and know what that looks like. And frankly, it's required. The government has said it's too complicated for us to figure out. We have rules that say stay off the slopes. You're not allowed to go there if you're a contractor or city employee because it's too much liability. And they're also told not to go within 20 feet of a tent. And, you know, as volunteers, we're able to follow those guidelines, but also not be so, you know, we're able to follow those guidelines, but at the same time use common sense. And that's allowed us to achieve the results that we have. Over 900 volunteers registered, almost 10,000 hours of labor. You know, I always like to say, you know, free to the communities, free to, I mean, I guess there are some donors here, you know, as well. But, you know, we are private funded, and that's the magic, where we're able to just kind of go at things without the bureaucracy and the tied hands. What I would like to go to, like, just in the spirit of time, you know, this is some great before and afters of what we're doing. For those of you who are not aware of We Heart Seattle, we're not picking up bubblegum wrappers and disposed Funyun chip papers out at Discovery Park. We're really in the bowels of our green spaces that are in your very backyard. So here is a picture of us in the northeast Queen Anne Greenbelt McLean Trail, and also off to the right, the northwest Greenbelt, where there have been, you know, collectively over, I don't know, something like 300,000 or 400,000 pounds of trash removed, starting with pickup trucks, now working with Seattle Public Utilities. So we've come a long way in terms of, you know, feeling like we've kind of got to do all of this on our own, with, sadly though, really kind of like backdoor relationships with the city. It's not really out there too out in the open, but everybody's just kind of over the bureaucracy, and we're getting a lot of support from Parks, Seattle Public Utilities. And I have to give a shout out to Council Member Sarah Nelson for sure in her help in amplifying our movement. The individualized outreach, again, I didn't set out to think that we would have outreach superpowers, but we do. Again, it's that power level set in everyday citizens coming together and, you know, sort of on the job training. 3 years later, we have been through trauma-informed care training, de-escalation training, mental health first aid, but also just boots on the ground training. There's nothing wrong with that, in saying that we kind of know what we're doing. We know how to talk to people. We have a heart, we have some ears, we have some eyeballs, and we have studied the resources in our city to ad nauseum. And despite what I heard in the debates last night, which was there was a 30 to 90 day wait for detox beds, and most of the questions were geared around that false fact, I put out a challenge to all the candidates in council today that to come out with us and to see, I mean, I hate to say it, it's almost easy to get people into detox and triage to recovery oriented housing. So this is the advocacy piece that we didn't set out to do, but it certainly is the icing on the cake of this movement because we're saving lives. Some just great before and afters here on the northwest Queen Anne Greenbelt. Pretty striking here what everyday volunteers can do with a little elbow grease. I'll show this and then shut up because this is pretty cool. This was February 12th underneath I-5 on Eastlake, where over 50 Rotarians, homeless who lived here, senior citizens, 13 and up, everybody in between, came out and picked up a 10,000 pound, 40-yard dumpster of trash in less than 2 hours. And I call this trasher size, you know, like, why pay for the gym when you can come out with We Heart Seattle? I always get that one wrong. And then partners, you know, just kind of lends credibility to what we're doing. We've had folks out volunteering, corporate serve days, Amazon, Expedia, Excel, Hilton, lots of faith-based missions come out and choose our platform. In fact, Union Gospel Mission is pretty much given us all of their overflow large format volunteer requests. We've created stewardship throughout the city, notably Denny Park, McLean Park, Dr. Jose Rizal Dog Park, Sandal Park, Qacc Park. I could go on, where once it's clean, it stays clean. And that's the stewardship part that we inspire everyday citizens to do. I'll leave this as our last slide before Q&A, because then we get into a bunch of pie charts, which are boring. But this is again Northwest Queen Anne Greenbelt, where we had a human daisy train pull out 10,000 pounds of trash with about 125 volunteers, in really a historical restoration that has never been attempted before. Sounds a little Supermanish and a little superpowerish, but it kind of was. And now Upper Queen Anne can actually walk through that trail to the waterfront without debris. And I think this picture really is worth 1,000 words. What makes us different, though, is being private funded, friction-free, no bureaucracy, no meetings, no grant restrictions, no studies. We don't even have 6-figure salaries. Like we really just are out there trying to get it done through an action-based strategy. And ultimately, I think kind of call out, what's working and what's not. So my favorite kind of messaging these days is that we have adopted a compassionate intervention method of outreach that supplements current strategies, which are very all harm reduction, which is all meet people where they're at. And if you haven't read the recent Seattle Times piece that covered We Heart, there was like a comparison of position and ideology of, meeting people where they're at. And I share Sarah Nelson's position, which is, we're leaving people actually at death's door and treating people like hospice patients under current strategies, only to give them just enough to be comfortable until the day they eventually die, because that is the reality of fentanyl. And that is kind of where we cross over in this, inspiring, hopeful, like trash picking volunteer to the realities of what we've uncovered, to include 9 deceased bodies that our volunteers have found in these very woods that you're looking at. And that's no fun. So we're here to kind of challenge that status quo. Quick little shout out to our board, Beth Bonnell, here with the community council as well, and Queen Anne resident. Wouldn't know where we would be without her. And a couple other faces here. If anyone has any questions, we can kind of get into that. But I'd like to stop and leave the last couple minutes for Q&A, if that's okay, Paula.
That's great. Thank you, Andrea. And if you can stop sharing your screen, that way I can see if there are questions from everybody for Andrea. And before I watch for a hand to fly up, I just want to give kudos to We Heart Seattle, who have been invaluable in helping Cindy Moulton and I in McLean Park and the East Greenbelt here on Queen Anne, because it was an area that the city was unable or unwilling to address. And parks will not send their folks into the Greenbelt because of the slopes, which we totter up and down them, and we're well into our 70s. So, or at least I am. But anyway, so we appreciate the contributions that We Heart makes, because there literally is no other organization that will help us in the Greenbelt areas. Okay, any questions for Andrea? Anybody? Caroline, go ahead.
Andrea, are you a 501c3?
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
And that's a really good point too, because unlike city agencies, there's no funding or budget of any kind that comes to We Heart Seattle, so they rely on donations. And I know Cindy has amassed quite a group of people to work in the Greenbelt and McLean Park. And so we support We Heart Seattle because they support us, and we would encourage you to consider doing that yourselves. So, and I'm about to meet with some people in the West Greenbelt area who have some issues. So I'm sure that, Andrea, you're probably very familiar with what's going on over there. So
For sure, for sure. And, you know, I know Paula and Cindy and a few others are very close to what we did in the McLean Trail. In 2021, we pulled over 100,000 pounds of trash out of that trail just off of Taylor. Seattle Times covered us. You know, in that effort, there was one active camper who we got housed. 2 years later, we maintained it. Of course, people come and go, but we were always there through the stewardship that Paul is talking about to offer outreach. And most recently, a young lady who's 29 and who was pregnant was a little at first, you know, this is kind of where it takes a few times to walk through the trail and build trust, as Cindy did, as Paula did, as other folks that went through the trail cleaning the litter every week. Allie got to know the neighbors, and then one of our final picks there, one of our big pushes, she said, whatever you guys can do to help me, I'm ready today. And she's now with her mom. She went through a 30-day detox. Her baby is very healthy. She's still pregnant. She hasn't delivered yet. She's due in March, and we plan on doing a virtual baby shower for her. But I mean, I just got to urge that, like, everyday citizens can get to know your neighbors that are suffering, living rough. There's 50 services that we've now identified that offer Medicaid supported inpatient treatment for drug detox. That is completely counter to what the current candidates and council are stating is happening. And I don't know why they don't believe there is no place for people to go. We send people to detox and could daily, if I had more than Tim and I. We could walk down the Blade. We could walk down Leary Way. I could walk through Mercer. I could walk through Kinnear. There are beds available. They only need about 5 days to detox, and then they move into a 28-day other area. And then from there, they'll go to Weld or Oxford or Battlefield Addiction or Remnant or Home. I am in touch with dozens of moms and grandmothers and children who are just waiting for their family members to get clean. And it is not that complicated.
okay, Carolyn, go ahead.
So are you willing to share your list of the 50 places where you're able to refer people for detox?
I will email it right now to Paula, and she can cascade it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Lori?
Yeah. Hey, Andrea. I think it's amazing what you guys have accomplished in the few short years you've been around. I wonder if you could talk for those of us that are not as familiar with you. Just, I remember early days, you were very much on the fringe of sort of, you know, the powers that be in Seattle and King County. And it seems like you've gained a lot of, I hate the word, but legitimacy, and you have established contacts with people, you know, who are making policy. Can you talk a little bit about that journey and how it's going and where you think it's heading?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Lori. Thank you. You know, 3 years ago, I was in Denny Park, you know, fall, September, October, November, December. I was unassailable. I was doing graffiti. I was trying to use the Find It, Fix It app. I was trying to adopt my block, and all of that fell flat until I went to Denny Park and saw, you know, what was going on. And we started kind of doing the outreach there and the cleanups. But it was really one fateful day that I referred to certain agencies as enablers. And that is what got me into the hot water of, like, a new person on the stage that was sort of using not city adopted terminology like housing first, harm reduction. And I fought that for, you know, a year and change, year and a half, maybe. You know, there's some really interesting characters out there that sort of affiliate with far, left fringe, Antifa, Black Bloc, abolitionist type behavior that have tried to do an online defamation of character of our work. These are folks that do not want any police of any kind. So they should just be naturally discredited. They're not a majority. They're not a semi-majority. There's a real fringe effort out there that show up at City Hall. And sadly, our city council kind of panders to them, or a few. But I have to say, Lori, like, other than kind of some initial backlash, we have, 4 citywide memos of understanding of real contract work. Half of our donations are grassroots individual contributors. One of your neighbors, I think he would be okay if I told you this, Andrew Conru, who purchased the old Lusty Lady and plans to turn it into a museum of 18th century or 19th century rather historic Seattle art, gave us our first 6-figure check. There's real support out there, and the majority's coming around. Alex Peterson, Sarah Nelson, City Attorney Ann Davidson, Chief Diaz, the fire department, area improvement district executive directors, most importantly, the homeless. I have huge support from our homeless population that are eager to have us come into their encampments. They love our program. We have a basic needs stipend program where we offer $25 gift cards or refilling phone or gas or tickets home or just general case management if you participate in our program. We are not giving handouts, we're giving hand ups. And that builds a ton of respect and trust from my biggest educator, which are these people that are down and out. They've lost trust in the system. They're wondering why nobody is asking them for help to get into treatment, especially now with the death toll of fentanyl. So, and the mutual aid, there's folks out there that were trying to thwart our efforts, frankly, have gone silent entirely.
Yeah, amazing work in such a short time. And it seems like people that are setting policy are starting to pay attention to some of your philosophies and strategies. So bravo to you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an influx of support from Rotarians. I guess to some extent, this might be an overstatement, being flown to Victoria on Friday to be a speaker at the overall District 530, which is 45 clubs. Rotarians are all over us, love what we're doing. We're getting tons of grant money from them that's really unsolicited. Various veteran programs, Lehigh, everybody's kind of getting behind us as the leader for a more compassionate and healthy community for all to enjoy. And I think we're at that point of inflection where at about 3 years, it's sort of like, get out of my way or get behind me or get in alignment with us, because what we're doing is historical. We've co-founded North America Recovers with Canadians and other grassroots organizations across North America, which is kind of huge. We have partnered with a lot of other like-minded folks, including King County Elections, who will be participating in our first annual Get the Vote Out Walkabout, which is October 21st. We'll be handing out t-shirts, swag, voter registration booths. We'll be giving you your 5.7-mile walk of the day, which will start in Chinatown, cut through Queen Anne, and end it across the Ballard Bridge. 30 to 40% voter turnout is unacceptable. The majority is not voting, which means we do not have a consensus on how we want our city to be ran at all. We are far from consensus. And so that has kind of now been my focus. And thanks to Beth Bunnell, my coach, my mentor, our board chair, says, actually, why the hell wouldn't we be getting out the vote year round? And I'm like, totally. Like, why do we always do this fire drill? Like January 1, let's do a get out the vote campaign and keep that as part of our our messaging, which does iterate, it does change, we are a startup. And so we're really good at throwing up a lot of ideas. And I call it a concierge suite of services to solve unique individualized problems. And reach out anytime. I left my information in the chat box. I can send the PowerPoint link to Paula. I already sent our list of over 50 places to get drug tea talks to Paula and Beth. Any other questions?
I think you've got everybody sold, Andrea. So
Gold.
that's great. Thank you for all the work that you do and that you will keep doing. And thanks for being sort of on the cutting edge of re-envisioning what this kind of outreach can look like. So thank you. Great. And you're welcome to stick around for the rest of the meeting if you'd like. It'll be really exciting. Thank you again. Okay. I have looked to see, Camille, are you hiding somewhere that I cannot see you? We had originally Camille Adkins Reich was going to be here from the World Affairs Council, but she has not joined. So I'm going to talk really briefly about what she was going to talk about. I did send something to all the members of our board because the World Affairs Council is sponsoring a youth leadership program, bringing some young people from other countries to the Seattle area, and they will be attending I think it's a week-long program, and they were looking for host families for that period of time. So let me just read a little bit of what Camille sent. If you have an interest, I can certainly put you in touch with her. She is the director of the Global Leadership Exchange for the World Affairs Council. What they're doing is it's an opportunity to host exceptional youth leaders from Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru for a short homestay in November. They will be attending special meetings and classes and things on Capitol Hill. And so last year, or the last time that they did this, there were students who stayed with families in Queen Anne. Unfortunately, this year, a lot of those families weren't available. So if you would be interested in hosting a young person, or maybe even two, for that particular period of time, it's November 4th through November 17th. The World Affairs Council provides extensive support for your hosting. So they give you guidance and they take care of the transportation, everything for the kids. You don't have to deal with any of that. So anyway, if you're interested, let me know and I'll be sure to get you in touch with Camille, because it sounds like a really great program. And if I was going to be around, we'd be doing it, but I won't be. So okay. With that, we're going to move on to the rest of our meeting, which is more around our business for the Queen Anne Community Council. So I think very quickly we'll have an update on, or not an update, but an approval of the minutes, which I forgot to send out again. I'm going to have our illustrious secretary do that because I've forgotten 2 times now to send out the minutes for approval. So we'll get to that next month. We'll just start doing it on a quarterly basis. So my apologies. I have a mental block against it. So Ben, as our treasurer, you can take the floor and give the treasurer's report.
Sure. Our general fund is at $2,435.03, and our land use fund is $1,426.45.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. So the one item that we do need to have a board vote on, so only board members should be voting on this particular issue. If the rest of you could just hang out for a second. So we would normally do our election of officers at this time. This year it happened that the nominations for officers were to extend the next year for the existing officers. So rather than voting, we are going to do a vote on a resolution. I think all of the board members have received that resolution. So does anybody have any questions about it before we proceed? Okay, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Motion.
Thank you. And seconded? Okay. And with that, are there any abstentions? Are there any no votes? Then we will assume that the yes votes have it. So thank you. And I will continue as chair. Thank you very much. I'm honored to do that. Nicole Friedman will continue as vice chair. Ben will continue as secretary since it seems like our account's growing. That's good. And Beth can continue as secretary and probably get the minutes to everybody for approval. So thank you all. And we look forward to another really exciting year. We will be doing some planning and strategy coming up here pretty soon. And to that end, what I would like to ask for the general members of the public who are here tonight, if there are things that you would like to see the community council look into, to consider working on, send those to the Queen Anne Community Council email or to me, get it to somebody that you know here. And we'll take that up to see if we have the manpower and the bandwidth to help with projects that you have in mind. We will want your help too. So don't feel like you're off the hook just because you're coming up with the idea. And with that, I'd like to hear from our committees, those who are here, committee chairs. And I want to start with Beth Bunnell because she has the update on our candidates forum. So Beth.
Okay, thank you. We had a great turnout last week for our King County Council Forum. Our District 7 forum is tomorrow at 7. I will post in the chat the sign up, but it's at 7 o'clock. It's also on our website. We have more than 100 people signed up. Tyler's going to be moderating. Thank you, Tyler, for stepping up for that. It's going to be a great 1-hour conversation with our two candidates, Andrew Lewis and Bob Kettle. We'll also share the recording afterwards in case you miss it.
Yeah. And thank you, Beth, for all the work that you have done on this candidates forum. So, because you've done the heavy lifting.
Also, just to
Go ahead.
make sure we know we're doing it jointly with Uptown Alliance. So we've done the heavy lift with them, which has been great.
Yeah. Okay. Nicole, you are the new chair of the Land Use Review Committee. I don't know if you really have anything to report tonight or anything you'd like to say, but if you do, the floor is yours.
Just that Denny was the chair of the Land Use Committee for a really long time. He taught me a lot. And at our last meeting, just I guess to report on that, we had a really long presentation from the developers for the Barrett Street project. It looks like things are, I'm trying to rack my brain. I went back to work last week from maternity leave, so I'm like half like brain dead. But looks like that is really coming along, and they look really nice. So kind of excited to see that kind of get started. And we'll be moving forward. I need to send out the the invitation. I think for LERC, we'd love to have more people, identify more like ways that we can get more in touch with different projects, or share more information like with the community about development projects in the neighborhoods. I just feel like there's a lot of development right now. And so I think we just need to explore kind of like what as LERC do we want to spend our time on? What do we want to, focus on in terms of actually making us like taking a position on something versus like sharing information. So we kind of need to talk about all of that. But that will be, I think, the first like meeting or so to try to figure that out. So overall, we haven't had a lot of new projects come our way to provide input on. And so I think we just had to figure out what it is that we want to kind of be spending our time on there. So
thank you.
And I guess like one more comment is, we should talk about this as part of like our board planning process, but what do we want to do about trees? So, yeah.
Yep.
Kind of what jurisdiction should trees fall under? So,
They'll have a category of their own.
right. Let's
Tree-
lead the tree committee.
Tree committee. There we go. Great. Thank you. And thank you for taking a leadership role too, Nicole. It's really appreciated. And I'm sure it's very much appreciated by Denny. So let's see. Parks, Don. Where are you?
Oh yeah, I'm here. I've been doing work. People didn't need to see me, I was paying attention, but trying to see if I could do at least two things at once. Parks, yes. Probably all we talked about this, we had a meeting last night, and I didn't run out of the room quick enough, so I am again the chair of the Parks Committee. So which is nice. I mean, I appreciate it. We reported on that Soundview Terrace, which is kind of the Rachel's Park. It's over on 11th Avenue West and West Wheeler Street. It's rather a terrific little park, kind of like a neighborhood park, but I don't know. It's very interesting. It's got beautiful views if people have not taken the time to walk over there.
We just discovered it. It's such a nice park.
It is, isn't it? And they just refurbished it, so they kind of spruced it up, fixed a few things. So yes, it's very nice. It's really good. The other one is that I kind of threw open to the committee something that the Parks Committee has been working on for off and on for about 15, 16 years at least. And that is and sort of got put it out there. At least I am, and I hope other people will join me. I'm going to try to basically activate the Queen Anne Boulevard. It's a bit controversial. There'll be people upset, the owners, because quite a bit of not quite a bit, but there's a fair bit of the boulevard that have encroachments by the owners. You walk down the paths, you walk down the sidewalks, you don't know that actually there can be anywhere from 5 feet to 20 to 30 feet that is actually Parks property that looks like people's front yards. So I have this idea of, activating that. We are not going to be buying more parks. That's not true. Somewhere, somehow we're going to, but if you start thinking of Seattle as the way the state would like it, and where some people are requesting it, where there are a minimum 4 housing units on every lot, you can see how desperate we're going to be to find parks areas. So, I'm going to start working with the Parks Department again on seeing what they can do. I had broached them before. It's a long story. If you'd been at the Parks meeting, you would have heard all about it. And so, but that's sort of what's on the fire. And I kind of I appreciated Paula bringing up this idea about the green belts, which is I didn't have. Let's see. I've got my notes here. You called it an urban green space instead of just a green space. It's an urban green space. So we can get a designation for it and then get more resources from parks, how to activate it. As really We Heart Seattle just mentioned, as Paula knows, because she's working down there, to activate those green spaces is hard. And it was at one point activated by an Eagle Scout that was actually Ellen Monrad's son, who was an Eagle Scout, and this was his Eagle Scout project. And he built the trails and got other people, of course, involved that put in those trails that you now see on the East Greenbelt. So I'm kind of interested in that. I know Paul is approaching it on hers, and I'm gonna help add what I can to that, because I think it's a very cool idea. So other than that, as the new members, we work on parks and green spaces. Oftentimes we get involved with trees in general because, people think that they're all in parks, which, come on down. If you like parks, help. We need help. Thank you.
Hey,
Thanks.
Don, I don't know if this is a loaded question. Do you have a park map? Like, do you have a map? Is there a map of all the parks in Queen Anne?
Yes.
Can you send it to me?
No, it's that big and about like that.
Okay.
Right? You know what I could try to do is see if I couldn't take a picture of it.
Yeah.
But there is a list. If you go right onto the Queen Anne Community Council webpage, find the Parks Committee, you will see a list that Caroline did an excellent job of listing all the parks that are in Queen Anne. And it's rather extraordinary how many there are, all the way from the little tiny ones that you had no idea to, of course, the big ones. I kind of wish I'd helped put a little more information. Like David Rogers Park is a Olmsted inspired park. He wanted a park where David Rogers is, thought there should be one over there. And no surprise, David Rogers, back in the very, very, very early 1903, 1906, donated that land. Same way Kinnear Park got built. Kinnear donated it. So the boulevard is as they say, an Olmsted-inspired park, which really meant that he drew it out, and then the landowners donated the land, their own land, to create the boulevard. So yeah, I'll take a picture of it. That's kind of a cool idea. I'll try it.
Okay, thanks, Don.
Okay. Anything else from parks? Tyler, public safety.
Absolutely. What a note to follow on, Don. I love the history lesson about our beautiful Queen Anne, and it's interesting to hear how all these pieces came about. Thank you for sharing that. So we, as the Queen Anne Community Council, have been participating in some of these discussions amongst candidates to bring a public safety lens forward. I don't know how many of us were at the Seattle Unity Forum in person for City Council District 7 and King County Council District 4. And so that was a wonderful collaboration with many of our partners, including South Lake Union, Belltown, Uptown, and the West Precinct. So kind of keeping that lens on what's happening in our electoral politics, because that's going to have a big sway in the future of our city and how we uphold many of these public safety points. But the next upcoming piece where we're going to gather and learn more and understand what's happening at a street level, and also better understand what diversion looks like, is going to be with Sean Blackwell, who Paula has invited to be with us in different times in the past and who has attended our Queen Anne Community Council meetings. He is with LEAD, and we are going to have an informal coffee conversation with him at KEXP in Uptown, kind of lower Queen Anne, where we'll all buy our coffee and we'll find a corner and just have an opportunity for him to chat with us some more and kind of share perspectives from his work and be able to ask questions. So that's going to be on October 24th at 10 a.m. And I know Paula is going to keep that in a lot of the Queen Anne outreach pieces. I'm going to continue to put my email in the chat so that we can keep growing our group and get a planning meeting after the election together for mapping out 2024. I will pause here because I know Marcus has also worked on public safety issues with our local businesses and some other threads, to see if Marcus wants to put anything else on the table for the moment. Marcus?
Yes, not many updates as of now, except for the Queen Anne Eye Clinic. It got robbed or broken into, I want to say August 22nd. Other than that, the hill's been pretty quiet and calm, but just wanted to let that be known that we still have some egregious visitors coming to our neighborhood. Hopefully we can find strategies to fix it.
You want to make a little announcement about our guest speaker in November, Marcus, that you've arranged?
Oh, yes. We're going to have the city attorney come in November 1st, and she's going to give us some updates on the new drug use law and shed some light on some new developments going on in City Hall. So that should be an exciting meeting.
Thanks for arranging that. So thank you.
Oh, you're
Okay, terrific. Let's see. Bill, Faye, you're here. Is there anything up to update us on emergency preparedness by any chance? I think we all had a little awakening the other evening, about 7:20 or so.
Well, yeah, I actually felt it. I was sitting at dinner and I picked up my phone and saying, what was that? It was just a little 4.3 thing up by Port Townsend. But yes, I don't have any other particular events coming up. Of course, we're always constantly trying to educate people and put things together for our hub. And as well as I'm working with the Magnolia people. Right now, we're actually trying to help the Perkins Lane people set up a communication network so they can be in better touch with each other in the case of a major disaster, because Perkins Lane would quite possibly be truly cut off in many ways. But other than that, we just keep trying and trying to put together more details. Probably next spring or so, we'll have another drill with the hub and stuff like that. I'll keep you posted.
Great, thank you. Okay, and for transportation, I know Jasmine isn't here, and she had let me know that she was stepping down as the chair of the transportation committee just because she has things that are really demanding her time, so she didn't have time to do that. We will have to have a meeting with transportation, so anyone who's interested, we will be looking for someone to chair that committee. There's not a ton going on that's immediately demanding, but there are some long-term projects. One, of course, is the Aurora Avenue revision, reimagining Aurora Avenue, which will be a very long-term project. We're talking probably decades. But it is something that we need to definitely keep our finger on the pulse of and make sure that we have a voice in how that development impacts our segment of Aurora Avenue, which is from the north end of the tunnel to the other side of the Aurora Bridge. So that's something that is ongoing. Of course, kind of being at the right hand of both Uptown Alliance and Magnolia Community Councils on the Sound Transit ST3 West Seattle to Ballard line. That's a huge project. Like many huge projects, it seems to bog down from time to time, but it's important that we at least know what's happening. We won't be having a station in the upper part of Queen Anne, or the stations that are planned for the Interbay area, so they aren't immediately on Queen Anne, but they certainly will impact us. And then, of course, our concern is how do we get to those transit stations once they exist? Again, it's a decades-long project, but it's an important one to have our eyes on. One other small transportation project was the Qacc crossing at 7th West and West McGraw, which is completed. And sometime in the next few weeks, I'm trying to arrange a small little celebration just to celebrate the existence of the improved crosswalk safety project that was done there. So I don't know what we'll do yet. It won't be huge, but we need to burn some more volunteer hours. So I may be looking for a few volunteers just to come over, walk by, say hello, and we'll log an hour of volunteer time for you. And then finally, those of you who may have signed a petition of support for the canvas mural project under the Aurora Bridge at the south end. That project was approved by the city, and it won't be installed though until spring, because now the weather has changed and they won't be able to do all the preparation and the painting and stuff until spring. But at least that mural did get approved, and we'll look forward to seeing that go up in the spring. So those were a couple of nice successes that I heard about. So and I think that that's all I have that relates to transportation, and then other things. Okay, is there anything that anyone would like to talk about, ask about, and that can include board members and non-board members. So anything that anybody wants to bring up that we should know about.
One thing I had sent an email, Paula, to you and Ben and Beth about this, but I'm going to put a link in the chat. Wallingford did their community council did a survey of just a community survey. I thought it was super interesting, and I feel like we could, we can talk about this at our planning meeting, obviously, is how to get better engagement. Like there's only 24 people in this meeting. So how can we get more engagement with the community? And maybe like a way to start that is by doing a survey and like helping people feel like we're hearing what they're interested in. And in doing that, we get more people who are interested on our email list or whatever. I just put kind of the link there, and I would be happy to like draft up a survey. I mean, I think it should be pretty easy. Like one idea I had was like, could we print out little cards with like a QR code on it that we could put on the little shops, like on the app, and people could just like go in and do it as they're shopping or whatever. But I just wanted to kind of get a pulse check on this group's thoughts on whether like that would be something useful for us, or we should like spend the effort doing. It might be a good time to do it now, and then we could like get results and then kick off 2024 with it. But just wanted to share that thought. So
I support that entirely because we have a brilliant person who can help us with data collection and producing surveys and compiling results, and Ben. And the community sentiment survey, I think, was really very well received and enlightening. That was done a few years ago. Plus updating our demographic data based on the latest census information will be important because we'll be using that in helping inform who we are in Queen Anne. So anybody else? Somebody had their hand up and I apologize. Sharon, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just really excited to have so many new members on the board. I'm not sure, though, that every new member knows that part of board membership is the expectation that you participate in at least one committee. And I just wanted to reiterate that thought and make sure that everybody knows when those committees meet, and that each person should choose the one in which he or she has the most interest and begin to participate. Of course, there's nothing that says you can't come to more than one committee with your ideas, but somehow I think that's gotten lost in the transition. So just wanted to bring that up.
We'll be talking more about board participation at our planning meeting. And I did send out kind of a little digest of some of the things we'll talk about that are kind of orientation subjects. So there's a very good comment in chat too, an idea, and I share this as well. A desire to see more community art and murals around Queen Anne Avenue. And obviously with Steve Reddy on our board, Steve's an artist by training, or at least he's an artist. So I think he's somebody who can help us drive some of those projects. And there is another young person in the community that I met with. He was not in a position to run for the board at this time, but he's very interested in working on art in the rest of Queen Anne, besides the uptown area. So we'll definitely be looking at ways to increase our engagement in art and the performing arts, whatever is around. So anything like that, please keep the information coming, because we'll be, it'll be nice to do some positive things rather than always sort of, chasing all the hard things that we seem to go after. So, do some fun things for a change. And as well as connecting with the business community more than we have been, and whether that's the individual businesses or with the chamber, because there's, I know that there's an interest in reactivating, rekindling the chamber, and we're certainly happy to support that. And also happy to have the businesses participate in the Queen Anne Community Council as well. And one last area that we haven't heard from, and I've tried to reach out to a couple of people unsuccessfully just recently though, and that's our faith community. So we don't have representation on our board from the faith community. I think we should definitely be hearing from a few of those folks to know what their challenges are, and also to look at where there may be opportunities for them to contribute within the neighborhood in areas where we feel we need some organizations to we can help support them making a difference. So anyway, so I'm sure we'll have lots more discussions on these items. Anything else from anyone? Okay. Well, with that, we have set a new record for our meeting. So this will be, I think, one of the shortest we've had, but everybody gets to enjoy the rest of the evening. And thank you for attending. I hope to see everybody tomorrow night, or at least many of you, at the Candidates Forum. And then next month, we'll get started on November 1st, will be our next meeting. So I look forward to that. Thank you. Okay, good night, everybody.
Thanks,
Good
everyone.
night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.